everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And welcome back to Geekvolution After Dark. Thanks a bunch for watching, and thanks a lot, patrons, for subscribing and helping us out on the channel. We sure appreciate your monetary contributions, and because of that, of course, we deliver you every month, twice, Geekvolution After Dark, where I was like, well, I've already fucked this up, better just blow on through it. We deliver
No one will know this.
Twice.
But I know this.
Exciting episodes with all kinds of grammatical errors of Geekvolution After Dark, our fucking uncensored program. Eric and I each have 5 topics written down. We never get to all 5, but
that's not true. Sometimes we do.
I don't know that we ever have past the first episode or 2. I always have at least one left. Maybe you have gotten to yours, and I've skipped.
I think sometimes I get to do all my 5 because we do like sometimes you're like, all right, well we hit an hour, but let's real quick hit like 1 or 2 topics.
Something you may notice, because I'm a nice guy, something you may not have noticed is that you will often go last, but you always go first, which means you usually get one more topic than I do. So if you have hit 5, it's been on weeks where I only got 4. That's all I'm suggesting. True. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to put an hour on the clock. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about as many different topics as we can in 1 hour. And Eric, are you ready to go first again?
Sure.
All right, here we go. 1 hour on the clock. Ready. Begin.
I want to preface my first topic by talking about something kind of in general about myself.
Okay.
Which is, in some ways, my perception of pop culture is warped by my place of employment.
Yeah.
So there are things that I
had that when I worked at GameStop.
There's things I'm more sensitive to and more heightenedly aware about because of where I work. I work in a store that sells geeky things, so like I feel like I'm more on the nerve of what like geek culture is really like, because I sell that. I see those kinds of customers in a way that I wasn't before I moved here.
But you also just have that sample set of the region. Yeah.
And look, anytime anyone tells you anything about their life as an example, it's anecdotal.
Right.
It's always anecdotal. If fucking anybody
it's not that it tells you nothing, it's just that there are other pockets and there's other parts of the world.
And you ever notice everyone has anecdotal evidence for like what they want to support? Like, oh, my niece fucking loved this movie. Kids love this movie. Oh, my kid thought this movie was so boring, he fell asleep in the theater. Kids hate this movie. Everyone's got one of those,
and
right?
I think we're all guilty of that.
No, absolutely. I've done it myself.
I'm sorry, we're jumping all the way. You know something else that I think we're all guilty of at one time or another? You heard one person said something to you.
Everyone says.
People are telling me. I have been guilty of this occasionally on accident with things that like a subscriber or two have sent me where it's like the subscribers are saying, oh wait, no, it's just that one guy.
Every YouTuber does it.
Yep.
Every YouTuber gets one message and says, we've been getting a lot of messages about.
Yep.
We all do it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have 1 subscriber or 1,500 subscribers. It's always... So a lot of people have been asking about. Okay, so I say all of this to talk about something that may be very specific, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a thing that I have noticed in my place of work. I want to talk about nostalgia for a minute.
Sure.
And about how
a popular topic.
We have now trained, specifically on the show, how we are now training people to have nostalgia.
Okay.
Okay. So something that I see constantly is people between the ages of 14 and 18 going, "Oh, my childhood."
Really?
Yes. Constantly.
And how often is it like multi-generational? Is it something that was also their parents' childhood?
Sometimes. Certainly sometimes. But a lot of times it's not. It is, I don't know, it'd be like a kid that was like 16, 17, like looking at...
They're pretending like they've lived more life than they have.
Yes. Now, when I was younger, I always thought I didn't have nostalgia. I've always described myself as not a nostalgic person. Here's the thing.
You totally are.
I totally am.
Yeah.
I just didn't live enough life. I wasn't far enough away from those things to actually have nostalgia about them.
So you were comfortable calling it that.
Yeah. And I feel like we have now raised a generation to believe that is the reaction you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it. It was fucking 2 years ago. You're 15. I'm sorry, when you were 13, you watched, some fucking TV show on Netflix. Like, you don't have nostalgia. You just don't. Like, scientifically, you're not far enough away from anything to have nostalgia. And time is still moving the way it does when you're younger.
Here's the thing. When you say nostalgia, there's this almost... We're to this place now, especially because of what has been popularized, and the fact that I think we're more keenly aware of this phenomenon now than we used to be, because so much is available that didn't used to be, and we're talking about it all the time, and the internet makes a lot more things available, and people are talking about things that they are hearing from people about stuff that maybe if the internet didn't exist they would never hear about again for the longest time. But I think there's almost like a capital N nostalgia and a lowercase n nostalgia. When I was in high school, and I told you about this recently, when I was in high school and I found again a friend that I had in elementary school, that is nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it had only been like 5 years, but for me, I mean, like, the difference between 5th grade and like 9th or 10th grade is this giant chasm.
Sure.
And so for me, it felt like it had been 20 years since I saw that person. That kind of thing is relative.
Yeah.
Most certainly. But I also...
I've seen kids do it with PS3 games.
Understand why you're saying it feels kind of ridiculous. And also, there is this... It's hard not to roll your eyes because you know that the passage of time for those people when they get older is going to move in a different kind of rate. And so, at a different rate, and so you're like, when you're 26, when you're 35, it's gonna move like light speed, and you're gonna look back on this and it's gonna seem silly to you, and you're almost embarrassed for them because you've had that experience now.
But also, I didn't go around talking like that when I was a kid, and I don't know anyone that did.
Okay.
I'm also done with people that are under the age of 18 referring to when they were a kid.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did this when I was when I was under 18.
That we probably all kind of did.
But boy, does that annoy me.
And again, it's relative. I mean, like, because part of it is you're wanting the world to embrace you as an adult.
Sure.
The fact that this is going to sound weird, the fact that that children are still saying that it actually gives me some kind of bit of hope about younger adults, I guess, just because I sometimes get the sense that we're moving to a place where society still thinks you're a child when you're 25, and so the idea that there are still people who are 18 and want to be independent and want to get out of their parents' house and want the world to treat them like adults is a positive thing, even though that's goofy when you hear them say, when I was a child.
The worst I ever had was I was talking to someone who could not be more than 12 or 13, and they bought a video game, and I was like, oh, I played this when I was a kid, and they said, me too.
Yeah.
And I said, fuck you, get out of my store.
Well,
that's not what I said. I like my job.
It's amazing
to some degree.
you're still working there
after
you did that.
Yeah. No, it really bothers me, and I feel like it's heightened by, this is what they're seeing on YouTube. This is what they're seeing on television. So everyone's talking about, oh, I'm so nostalgic. First of all, nostalgia's lost all meaning because we're just regurgitating it all, so it's not nostalgia anymore. But they've been trained that this is how they're supposed to act, and so this is how they act, even though it doesn't make any goddamn sense for them to act like that. This is how you're supposed to be. It really bugs me.
Well, and they're in a nostalgia store, so they walk in maybe expecting to have that experience with something.
Yeah. I don't know. What is your topic?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing I wanted to talk about, Eric, is I wanted to ask you, are there any themes that we either haven't used yet or that you are that you want to see us go back to? Maybe we could do them better or in a different kind of way for Power Ranger seasons. This is like, I think, the 25th year now.
Yes, there's a big one.
Is there?
Yes.
And we've done so many things now. We've done pirates now.
Kind of. I would like to see us actually do pirates.
It would be cool if we actually did, and we didn't.
I want them to take a series
ship
that's not pirates and make it pirate.
Pretend like there's not a pirate ship there. Anyway, but what's one that you'd like to see?
Okay, well, see again.
Yeah,
absolutely. The big one I want to see again that we haven't done for a very long time is I want them to go to space again.
Yeah.
I want another space opera
Me
Power
too.
Rangers. Mm-hmm. We've revisited a lot of things. We've revisited cars, dinosaurs, ninjas. And a lot of that's because of the Sentai.
I was going to say, some of this is contingent on whatever they make.
But neither of the two Sentai shows we adapt were space shows either.
We can also, that's true, but we can also extend this to, it would be nice for Sentai to make
I don't
something
know
they
if
haven't
they've
done in
ever
a long
actually
time,
gone to space.
which is interesting.
I know Gokaiger is...
I'm sure that's a budget thing where it's like, well, if we go to space,
Yeah.
how do we shoot in a park and
I know Gokaiger, they're space pirates, but I've never actually seen it, so I don't know if there's much time in space, or if it's just like, we're space pirates now, we're on Earth. Gokaiger is the show that Megaforce is based on. As far as just like themes that we've never done that I'd like to see...
Yeah. I think we can do time travel again, too. Which is risky, because Time Force is so good, but it would be cool to see one where we actually...
Time travel?
Went to different time periods, not just we went back a few years and we stayed there.
I mean, the reason that we did that is because of budgetary constraints.
Of course,
they wanted
I'm just
to do
saying
that.
if, like, you know, money was an object.
I just had one, and I lost it. It was, what was it? Oh! Inspired by the current season.
Yeah.
I want a show about Power Ranger magicians. I want them all to be magician-based. I want them all to have coats and top hat helmets. And
they pull shit out of their helmets?
Yeah! And that would explain where the weapons come from.
Yeah, and they
take out the top hat, they pull out a sword.
Yeah, and they have playing card weapons.
Yeah.
They do card tricks and then they hit monsters with them.
This needs to happen.
There's a lot of cool stuff you do that. And they all have wands.
Yeah.
They'd all have wands.
Yeah, that's their like side weapon that sometimes Power Rangers have and sometimes they don't. Is that like standard weapon? That's like a gun? It's like a wand that turns into a gun.
And whenever they morph, it's like poof, and then they disappear for a second, and then they're there.
And of course, their morphers will be cell phones.
Yeah. No, what would the good magician morpher be?
Some kind of card deck or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you make that.
It'd be cool if cards came, if like an infinite number of cards came out of your morpher. You know, like a card deck box. That's kind of weird, though. I don't know what maybe it would be.
I mean, Kamen Rider
it's a hat. It's a hat that you morph with, and no, because you have to like carry it around everywhere.
Yeah, how would that work?
What is too stupid for Power Rangers? Every time I think of something, I'm like, that's dumb, and then I'm like, but it's Power Rangers.
I can tell you the line. It's Operation Overdrive, and it's sunglasses morphers.
Yeah,
that's too stupid for Power Rangers.
Say that one's ridiculous.
But yeah, magician Power Rangers and going to space again.
I like that a lot. I feel like the Magician Power Ranger show would be the one that wouldn't really catch on, but I kind of like that idea.
That's bullshit.
But
I was so excited when I found out there was a Ranger that was a magician.
I guess they thought it was cool enough they did a Ranger that was kind of fun. I need to go back to that show.
Me too.
I really liked what I saw of it. So then we're talking about the new one about Ninja Steel. I guess Super Ninja Steel is.
Have they started that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or I saw.
How time flies.
Yeah.
Well, no, that makes sense because the beginning of the year was when they started Ninja Steel, and we're now a year later.
A year later, more than a year later, by a lot.
Remember when we're going to keep up with that show?
We were. We sure were.
And we're going to Primetime Crisis.
And then you remember when we did the first 4 episodes of Gotham at the beginning of the season, and then never went back? You remember that?
It was more than the first 4, right? It was like 6.
Nope. We did 4. Well, maybe did we?
Because I thought we watched 2 and then we watched 4.
We did 4.
And we were like, oh, that was a bad chunk.
No, because I saw it the other day on the channel. We did 4, and then we must have done a couple, maybe on the omnibus or something. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with that. Yeah. We got bored fast, and we may go back at some point, but we've not made it a priority.
Joker Kid came back.
Yeah, so I want to see it for that anyway. But where was it going? Oh. No, I mentioned the Super Ninja Steel because Ninja Super Steel, probably Super Ninja Steel. I mentioned that because I was at Target the other day and I saw some of the new toys for that, and one of them is wonderful. They have a chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's a chainsaw, and it makes scary chainsaw noises. And yeah, it's like a chainsaw sword. It's cool. Kind of awesome. Thought about getting it for Jason. It's pretty cool.
So what is your Power Rangers theme?
I want to mention a couple.
Okay.
I think it would be cool to do Sequest Power Rangers. I think it would be cool to do Ocean Power Rangers.
Well, Lightspeed Rescue is an ocean base. It's a military installation ocean base.
But it'd be cool to have a Megazord that was all water creatures. We've never done that, and I've always wanted to see that.
That's true.
And I don't think we've ever done that. And it'd be cool to have a Megazord that swam and fought underwater.
Have we ever done?
I really think slow motion underwater Megazord fights.
Have we ever done evil monsters that are like Atlantean?
I don't think so.
I mean, I guess kind of Divatox, but not exactly.
Right, and there was a sea thing there. We've gone to the sea, but it might be neat if we did like an Atlantis kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also think if you did, if not
Power Rangers Gate Atlantis,
if not a time travel show, it might be cool to do a period piece. To do Power Rangers like in a couple hundred years ago or something.
Yeah, that could be cool. Like Victorian Power Rangers.
Yeah. Something like that. I think
Yeah.
it would be really cool. The other thing about Power Rangers I wanted to ask you that's related to this is we had this thought the other day, and I just wanted to bring it up briefly here, since we're talking about Power Rangers already.
Is it about the Lord Draken video?
Yeah, so Eric and I saw the Lord Draken video that's supposed to be a teaser for the new comic series, for the new the comic event, Shattered Grid, which was really cool, but I'm afraid a lot of people are going to see that and not realize that it's the teaser for a comic book thing, because there's nothing inside the actual video that says that. Unless you look at the description, you wouldn't know that if you haven't been reading those comics. But Jason David Frank does Draken, and he's got an outfit, and it's really well written and really cool.
And it's by Kyle. It's written and directed by Kyle Higgins, who is the writer of the Mighty Morphin comic.
I would love to see an intermediate Power Ranger show.
Yeah.
And I think you could do it simultaneous with the standard, more kiddish show. And it doesn't have to be adult Power Rangers. I just think it would be cool. Now's the time to finally do something with more dimension. People have come out of the woodwork for Shattered Grid. I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to do big guns.
Well, I told you, like, I didn't really care about those comics because it seemed like they were going for forever on nothing. And, like, seeing the last stuff for this event, I'm like, oh, they're doing the stuff I want them to do in the first place.
And it makes me think that the 2017 movie came out 3 years too early. If all of this stuff existed before they started working on that movie, it would look very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I really think it would have influenced it. I think people would have looked at those books and been like, oh, there is already a way to do serious Power Rangers that somebody looked at where you can have your cake and eat it too, and it can have the absurdity of that stuff, but it can have character dimension, and it can be more about stuff and all of that. And that movie had a real hard time figuring out how to balance all that.
Now, in Japan, they do have a thing like that, which is Kamen Rider is kind of that.
Okay.
We're like, Super Sentai is the younger skewing show, and then Kamen Rider is the little bit more advanced show that goes to a little bit darker places.
Yeah.
I don't think we could ever do that here because Kamen Rider doesn't have nostalgia, and that's all we can sell now. And, like, I don't think you could sell a show on, well, it kind of looks like Power Rangers, but it's for a slightly more mature audience. I think it does have to be Power Rangers in America.
Yeah, that's fair. It would for me to get excited about it. I mean, like, maybe I'm part of the problem, but I just love that aesthetic, and I think you could tell some really cool serious stories in it. And I think that what Kyle Higgins is doing is probably overall, I mean, I don't know because I haven't watched much Kamen Rider, but it's probably slightly more sophisticated than that.
Than Kamen Rider?
Would be my guess.
I doubt that.
Really?
Yeah. No, I
Well, you said, that. I mean, you said slightly more than like how sophisticated of storytelling does that get? Like,
I mean, they let people die a lot.
Letting people die, like, sure, that's plot stuff. I'm talking about like actually letting the characters be three-dimensional and come alive and like,
I mean, it's serious
and,
to
like,
series.
More thematic. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it depends on what you're looking at.
Higgins is starting to go to more like Marvel Cinematic places. Like, I don't know that Kamen Rider has done that because I haven't watched it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what you think after we eventually watch Kamen Rider Gaim.
Yeah, sure.
Where the show about
but I mean,
samurai
like,
is one of the most
But does it get into
things
like
I've ever seen.
the politics of the world and that kind of stuff? Because
not really politics, but a lot of evil corporations and things like that.
Oh, sure, okay. No, I mean social commentary.
Yeah.
Social politics. I mean, when I say that, I don't mean politics necessarily.
Yeah, no, we get into some of that stuff.
You know, yeah.
I mean, there's some really dark character-driven stuff in some of the Kamen Riders. It just depends what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell like what we're talking about relative to what. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
because when you're just comparing things to Power Rangers, your bar is really
Kamen
low.
Rider is not sophisticated or dark for Kamen Rider when it's sophisticated and dark.
Okay.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
Kamen Rider Gaim, I think, is a legitimately great television show that is just really silly because of the kind of show it is.
That's great, yeah.
But I legitimately think that the ending is kind of profound, and like I'm completely with that show. I will put that show up with a lot of other shows as like just a really good television show.
And that was a polarizing one, you said.
No, one of our viewers doesn't like it.
Oh, okay. We're back to that again. One person said it. It's polarizing.
No. It was beloved. It was huge. It was one of the. Every couple of years you get one of these, which is almost like a tentpole show, which like brings in new people all of a sudden, and like the toys are selling out crazy. It was one of those.
Oh wow.
Double was one of those. This was one of those. And
I still really want to watch that.
X-Aid was one of those, which is probably the one that you'd like. I haven't seen anything of it, but it's all kind of like video game based, and the design. I think I showed you the design. Like he's pink and he's like googly eyes.
Yeah, it looks
and
really
like,
cool.
Yeah. That one was another like one where like it was really big and people came out of the woodwork for it and that kind of thing.
Well, what's your next topic, sir?
I have a specific Ender topic, so I'll leave that and whatever. I guess I'm just gonna.
However far we get.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be angry today.
I'm gonna be very much not angry today.
No.
Innocuous kinds of.
My anger
topics.
topic is a very dark topic.
That won't surprise anyone.
That's gonna be fun. I want to talk about a thing that I feel like we're doing a lot that we need to stop, and we need to stop fast because cinema is dying. We need to stop taking people that have made 2 mixed to well-received movies and then treating them like they're auteurs because they're on a fucking Marvel movie.
Yeah, I don't know that you shouldn't just make this a rant on the main channel, really, but yeah.
It's fucking bullshit, and we need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
We've done it, and Star Wars does it too.
Yeah.
Star Wars took a guy who made 3 movies, one of which I love. I love Rick. I didn't see Brothers
And then we
Bloom.
think they can do anything.
Yeah, they can do
And then
anything.
suddenly they can work with a budget that's like 60 times what they've had
Doctor
before.
Strange is a guy who made a couple of shitty horror movies, and now all of a sudden he's a genius because he's working on a Marvel movie. And we're doing this with all of them. We're acting like they're all these like Gareth Edwards made one not very good movie, got to do Godzilla, got to do Rogue One, and we acted like we're now acting like he's a titan, and what project could he possibly do next?
Is it because like the movie doing well justifies it as a piece of art? Is that what it is? Where like if it makes money, it's like, well, this person is successful.
Yes. Yeah. No. I think we've now moved the bar. It used to be.
We're not really looking at the quality of the film. We're just going like, look, it was successful.
It used to be we have to. You have to. It has to be in live action to legitimize it. I now think it has to be a blockbuster to legitimize.
Yeah.
I think it's really unfortunate.
And I hear too many people who will say, and sadly, we've had some of them have commented on our videos. I see too many people on the internet, and this is not the same kind of anecdotal thing we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This comes up a lot, where people will argue with you if you don't like something because they say, well, it made this much money, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I can't get my mind around that.
Yep. Transformers 2, cinematic masterpiece. All the Transformers films, except for the last 2, are cinematic.
Because how do you then reconcile, and like, I don't know, common sense, obviously that's not true.
Well,
But
now
like,
it's not only dollars, it's also Rotten Tomatoes percentage.
Yes, but real quick, even if you thought that, but what about the reverse of it? What about things that you saw that you loved that didn't do well? Does that mean you're wrong? Does that mean it sucked because other people didn't care about it?
No, because it never works.
That's not how it works.
It only works if it makes money, it must be good. And if it has over 90% of Rotten Tomatoes, it must be good.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not really what we're talking about, but
no,
sorry.
I think this really needs to stop because I think we've created this huge divide where like really, really great filmmakers are never going to get the chance to do great genre pieces. And very mediocre filmmakers are the ones that are now doing the genre things and are leading the charge and are now becoming the standard. We used to have people like Ridley Scott and James Cameron and people like that who were genuine geniuses, and you could tell it from the first fucking thing they made. James Cameron's first film is Terminator. Ridley Scott's first film, I think is Alien. Like immediately, these are guys that are masters of their craft, and they continue to do that. Cut to now. Well, he made like 2 movies that people like kind of liked, and so he's gonna do Jurassic World. Oh, now let's talk about him like he's a genius filmmaker because he's making a big blockbuster film. They're not earning it. It's kind of that thing that Ridley Scott was talking about when he was like, I would never do a Star Wars film because they'd never let me do a Star Wars film. These are people who are literally being paid to do what they're told, and we're treating them like they're auteurs.
Yeah, and the fact that this is going to sound cynical. The fact that they're not auteurs, and all that means, that's a really pretentious word. All we're saying when we say that is that those are people who have a vision.
Yeah,
you know, who are talented and who have a vision and who are
well, and all of their work is kind of part of that vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guillermo del Toro is not a auteur.
Yeah, and so this is going to sound a little bit cynical, but I wonder if some of these people who are picked up after they've had a couple of mildly successful movies are, as you alluded to, given these big movies because they can be controlled. Because those...
No, that is the director of Doctor Strange, the director of Ant-Man. Marvel specifically has had a bunch of these.
Yeah, where they don't have... And, I think there are some really good directors, and we've talked about this before, who are versatile in that they can make any kind of thing that they're hired to make, which I think is maybe a little bit different than people who are just, sort of adequate, and enough that it kind of doesn't even matter who's put there, but we turn them into a name because we give the director credit for everything that works. If you have a well-oiled machine and you put somebody in the driver's seat, but it's a, bear with me for a metaphor, but it's a car for driver's ed where the guy in the other seat has a brake. You know what I mean? Where it's that kind of thing. The driver is still going to get the credit for not wrecking.
Well, we're acting like workman directors are artists.
That's it.
And
there's nothing wrong with workman directors.
No.
But let me also suggest that there are workman directors that, if you gave them the chance, could work themselves up to being more than workman directors. And when we put those guys immediately in those blockbuster roles where they basically just become part of a machine, you're also robbing us of artists that have to go upstairs to get to that art, you know? Because not everybody is a James Cameron. No. But there are great filmmakers that maybe didn't start off as great filmmakers. There are actors that didn't begin as great actors either. Some of it is experience. A lot of it is experience.
And I think it's interesting that we... Some of the more established directors and the more genuine artist directors are the ones that are stifled, and the ones who their visions become compromised.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad is made by someone who's actually been making movies for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And is a well-known director. Ant-Man, Edgar Wright left. Now, Edgar Wright has only made 4 films, but it's Edgar Wright. Everyone, kind of... He didn't make a couple of movies that people, kind of maybe liked or maybe didn't like.
Yeah, he's thought of as an artist.
Yeah, and almost immediately. And we also need to stop thinking that just because you direct one thing, you can direct you can direct a genre.
Yeah, because this also ruins people who really are great filmmakers who get thrown in one of those movies and they take it because the money is good and because they want to be more exposed. And then when those... Because this is the other side of what you're saying, which we have talked about before. I'm glad you're giving us this, because this is the opposite side. We should probably bring up the other side of this, which is the people for whom... The directors for whom those movies fail, and then they can't get work again.
And they're career killers. And they're also career killers for those workman directors. Those guys who directed 1 or 2 movies, if those movies bomb and they're really bad, those people really struggle afterwards to get work. And that's not necessarily fair.
No.
I don't know, it's...
And it's nothing against those guys when they get successful, but then some of them probably get big heads about it, and then their work isn't as good, and as you say, then they're getting credit for things that it's not really fair that they're getting work over people that really, deserve it at least as much.
Yeah, no, it's something that really bothers me, and it keeps... Now, we walked out of Wrinkle in Time, and I was like, thank fucking God she didn't do Black Panther.
Yeah.
Based on...
That movie.
Based on that movie and Black Panther, one of these people is really gifted at genre, and the other one's not. That does not mean one of them is a good director and one of them is a bad director. Maybe she just can't do that. And maybe he can.
With Marvel, it's important to note that there are movies where it feels like the director was allowed to bring a vision to the table.
Black Panther.
Like Black Panther.
And
like
Iron Man 3.
Soldier, like Civil War. Hopefully everything that Russo's made.
Yeah.
And like Iron Man 3 to some degree, although Iron Man 3 is interesting, it's almost more in the middle. Now, we might find that even with Black Panther, there were things that he wanted to do that he wasn't allowed to, and there were compromises, but it doesn't feel compromised. Iron Man 3 is a surprisingly compromised movie for how much Black was able to bring his sensibilities to the table, because there were a lot of things he wanted to do that he either wasn't allowed to or ended up not happening because he had to collaborate with another writer, which he didn't want to have to do, and he just lived with it, and they managed to make a pretty good movie. Would it have been a much better movie if unfettered? I don't know. It's possible that there were things that Marvel asked him not to do.
I'm pretty sure it would have been a much better movie if it was just Shane Black.
It probably would have been, yeah. Sure. But there are bits where that movie takes a little bit of a hit for me when I listen to the commentary, because there are things where I can tell, oh, that was a big major compromise. One thing, I don't know if you remember this from that commentary, I just wrote the rewind on that, so it's fresh in my mind. There was one of the things that Extremis was supposed to do.
The heightened human thing.
Yeah.
Was that people are attracted to them.
That everyone's attracted to people that are on Extremis because it's supposed to be the next step in human evolution, and they don't talk about it that way, and you never really have a sense of that.
No, but the big demonstration
was
going to be that Pepper was going to sleep with Killian. That was going to be the big demonstration.
I don't remember him talking about that, but yeah.
That was the thing. Was
that in there?
Yeah, he was going to sleep with Pepper, and he was going to broadcast it. And they had to cut that, and I'd imagine they had to cut that because it's a Marvel movie.
Yeah, sure. No, that's crazy. I either didn't know about that, or it's been a while since I've listened to all of that commentary, because I started work on that back in December.
Yeah,
and I went back and listened to bits of the commentary, but not all of it again. So yeah, that I either didn't know or had forgotten about. Any more about that, or did you?
No,
okay?
I think you said my piece.
Eric, one of the things we did in the first episode of the show was a Mad Libs.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do another one.
All right.
Because it's been a long time since we've done that, and I thought that might be fun. And this time,
I want to do it again. I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah, I hit it again. Yep.
Star Trek.
I remember that from last time. We're going to do some Star Trek Mad Libs. I thought this might be kind of fun. Do you want... Let's see.
There should be a list in the front of Mad Libs.
Let me tell you... Let me do one... It might be more fun to do one without telling you which one we're doing.
Okay.
I was gonna ask you like which one you wanted, but it might be fun if you didn't know. So I think that's what we'll do. Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, so
Red Shirt's funeral one.
You know what? I did see a red shirt something, so that might have been in there. I've not looked at all of these. Eric, give me an adjective, please, sir. I'm just going to do the same thing I did last time. Yeah, okay.
Where I'm like, oh no.
I thought you meant you were going to pick the same one. No, I remember every word I did last Mad Libs was going to give you all of them. Any adjective. We're going to need 2 adjectives in a row, so we're going to be here for a while.
Red.
Red? Okay, what is your second adjective?
Billowy. Is that? Can I do that with a Y?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll work. That'll do. Plural noun.
Skateboards. Wait, it's the future. Hoverboards.
So the answer to my earlier question is no, Cap. I would not like to do Mad Libs.
Well, no, I always freeze. Because last time I did was it foods? Like everything was food.
First name.
Finn.
Star Trek Mad Libs.
Finn Wallow.
Star Trek Mad Libs. Part of the body.
The ear.
Uh-huh.
I think that one came up last time. I think I went ear that time too.
Color. That's not red.
Crimson.
That's red.
I wasn't gonna do that, but then you said that's not red. I was like, well, fuck you.
I need a synonym for red. Kidding. Adjective.
Scarlet.
Another adjective. What is with you and adjectives?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll pick
because I just want to go the colors. I just want to be like plaid.
Boring.
Sure.
Type of liquid.
Beer.
Beer, a type of liquid. Adverb.
I don't know.
Anything that ends in ly, Eric.
Fleetingly. Is that fleeting? Is not. Is fleeting a verb?
Yeah.
Okay, fleetingly.
I mean, it could also be an adjective, but like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm imagining
I guess
fleeting
it's not a verb, but yeah, fleetingly would still be an adverb, I think.
Is
yeah.
fleeting a verb? Yeah, I don't know.
Adjective.
Rumpled.
Rumpled. Yeah, actually, I don't think fleetingly is really an adverb.
I'm trying to figure out if fleeting is a verb. That'll tell me if fleetingly is
I was fleeting. Yeah, I don't think so. Another adjective.
Torn.
Torn. Natalie Imbruglia. Person in room. Person in room?
Captain Logan.
I don't know why it matters that it's that the person is in a room. Like, in the room we're in right now. I did not pick up on that. Verb. Verb.
Run.
This has already been strange enough. I've lost all of my senses. Another verb.
Climb. Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing?
Third verb, because it's there. A third verb.
Die.
Die. That's good. Okay. A part of the body.
Toe.
Toe. Mm-hmm. And then we got two more. Noun.
Dog.
Dog. And an exclamation.
Fuck. Because Discovery did it, so I can do it too.
Never written that in my cell phone before. Okay, here we go.
That can't be true.
Yeah. Yeah, never done it. I have written that word on a keyboard, but never my phone.
You've never typed it, like, even... Because sometimes I feel like you've messaged me on Facebook and stuff and been like...
I don't think so. I don't tend to swear on Facebook because occasionally my son uses my Facebook in order to send Sarah messages at work, and so I don't swear. And maybe keep that in mind when you send me things, because occasionally I let Jason use it.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, it's not entirely private because I don't have any other way for Jason to message his mom at work during the day, because it's not like he has his own Facebook. So like, what else would I do?
Yes. I've never considered that in my messages to you.
Yeah.
I've sworn a lot.
That's all right. I mean, it's never been right around when he was looking at that. But anyway. All right, here we go. Uh-oh, Romulans.
God damn it.
It's
always the fucking Romulans.
If Vulcans are red and logical. Did you know that back in my old Star Trek club, we had a game called TGRI, which stood for Thank God Romulans Invaded. I loved that game.
Also, the chemical that made the Neustrellas.
Yeah, and I did a logo for it that was the Romulan logo with the. Do you know the Romulan with the two balls? Where the Romulan logo has the bird talons that has the orbs in them.
Yes.
And so I took that and I put the TGRI canister in between them. Yeah.
Fun.
If Vulcans are... Hardly anybody in the club got it. If Vulcans are red and logical, Romulans are the opposite. Right. They're green, because Vulcans are not green. Yes, they are.
Wouldn't it be blue?
Cunning and billowy Romulans who come from the twin hoverboards of Romulus and Finn.
You fail the color puzzles.
Romulans and Finn are usually at war with the Federation. No, what I meant was Vulcans are supposed to be green, but you said red.
Oh, I see.
Keep up. Romulans have pointed ears. Yep. Yes, they do. And crimson blood, like Vulcans. Well, that's consistent with what you said. However, they were nowhere near as boring. That's pretty good. Although illegal, Romulan beer is secretly traded in the Federation, but it will... Didn't we use fleetingly already? I don't know what happened there.
I don't think so.
But it will fleetingly give you a rumpled headache.
That's not wrong.
Romulans wear...
I mean, fleetingly works there.
Romulans wear uniforms with torn shoulders, and their hair looks something like Captain Logan might wear. Like the CIA, the Tal Shiar will do anything it can to run you. That's kind of true. And if all else fails, They will climb you. They will climb you with a swift death to the toe. Some say that Romulans and Vulcans are the same dog, but Mr. Spock would say, fuck. Well, that wasn't the best, but it worked out okay. All right, Eric, 21 minutes left on the clock.
Oh, okay, cool.
What would you like to talk about next, sir?
Guess I'll go with a more, thought-y thing.
Uh-huh. Considering our word choice this evening, that'll be great.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's
so,
do something heavy.
I want to know, what is too far for violence in fiction? Should fiction have limits on subject
matter? Sounds like a GNN topic, yeah.
Sure. Well, I'm reading.
It depends, right, everybody?
Well, I'm going back through Berserk, and one of the things
Do you mean just in general, like there are lines nothing should cross?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm not saying that. I'm asking.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because I think there are certain things that we're getting to a place where people are acting like that's true.
Okay.
The big one is rape. I feel like we've gotten to a place now where if that appears in a piece, and the piece is not entirely about it.
Culture.
Yes.
I've been hearing that a lot.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. That's a mistake. You have to be able to include things like that in order to talk about them. If we simply avoid the topic...
Well, and we also treat it like it's lazy, as if using anything else is not... Like if you have rape as part of somebody's backstory, and that informs them,
yeah,
that's lazy, but having, like, a family death is not. Like, I don't understand what... Because they're both tragic, they're both real-world things that happen.
But I also think we act like if it's... With certain things now, if it's there because it's... Because the society has turned so hard on the notion of it, and obviously that's a good thing with something like rape.
Oh, no, absolutely.
We're not going to tolerate this at all. But the problem is we act like if it's there... we're supporting it.
Mm-hmm. Or that, like the fact that, like, RoboCop or any 80s movie, there are usually two, and there's always two of them, rapists that, like, go after a woman in an alley and, like, are gonna rape her, like that is unacceptable. Even though your hero is stopping that, it's somehow unacceptable to have it.
And I don't understand why. I don't know if the notion is supposed to be if we just pretend like it's not there, then the culture won't embrace it and it will go away. That's not how that works.
Yeah. If anything, it makes it...
But at the same time, we need things to be dark or they're not believable.
Mm-hmm.
So we're supposed to embrace that the world is cynical and not be too lighthearted about things, or that's just cute and unrealistic and idealistic, but there are certain things that you can't ever deal with and tackle because that's accepting them as part of I don't understand.
But should you only
use it? But
should you only use it if your intention is to address it? Or can you use it the way we used it in 80s movies, where it's just kind of a thing that happens because, like, it's just a thing that, like, is a scene like that
I can
better?
tell you how it's not gratuitous in RoboCop.
Well, yes.
I can tell you that's not gratuitous.
Yes.
It's part of a satire.
Yeah.
Like,
but that scene has done a lot of not satires.
I mean,
RoboCop's just the one that jumps to mind. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't mean to take this exactly to a rape place, but that's kind of the big thing that we're not allowed to do, or we're not. It seems like we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
And if your story has it and it's not all about it, it's gratuitous and it's not acceptable. This is something Altered Carbon is getting.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that show's being accused of just being like a show to demonstrate violence against women, which is insane. But anyways, I'm reading Berserk, and one of the things I've always really appreciated about Berserk, and what I'm also reading Berserk and going, I was way too young to read this when I first read it, because I was like 16 or 17, and I should not have been reading that. But, like, it has no limits. It will go, like, it has no limits, and that's something I really appreciate about it, because it's so black-hearted. Like, it goes so dark. And it earns some of that stuff, but, I mean, some of it's a little bit more flavorful, but it's really violent, and there is no, it's really grotesque, and, it goes to the right place a lot, because it's medieval times. And I was thinking about, like, I was like, I don't know if this would get made now. Maybe still in Japan, but maybe not. But because Japan's going all weird. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm someone that I mean, when it comes to comedy, I'm someone that believes that everything can be funny. You can make anything funny. And I don't.
Nothing should be off the table.
Yeah, nothing should be off the table because otherwise you're censoring yourself. I don't mean like the big C censorship. I mean you are censoring yourself, and I'm very against that. But I don't know. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know if this would get made now. And then thinking about, like, the culture that comes out of in the '80s and how the '80s were just so kind of crazy. Like we talked about with Wild Cards.
Yeah.
We don't make books like Wild Cards, like that first Wild Cards anymore.
Well, and Melinda Snodgrass even told me she thinks they went too far.
I think they went too far too. But
she said we've reeled that back. We don't think we should have gone as far as we did back then.
No, and I agree with that. But
you mean in the context of what that is? You're not. Yeah. You're not saying like nothing should ever be allowed to go to certain places.
Well, and is it?
But there are things. I mean, some of it is just how far can your imagination go? Like, can I imagine something that I don't think would ever serve a story? Or I just, you know me, I tend to have the attitude of A, you can make anything work, and B, it just depends on what story you're telling.
Yeah, like
I want to take everything on a case by case. I can't answer that question. I have to look at it and say, in the context of this, do I think it works?
So you don't think necessarily there should be limits, or there are limits? As far as fiction goes, knowing that's case by case, you're not saying everything can or should go. I need to see
that thing that I've read in 100 contexts that never ever works.
Well, and I don't think the thing in Wild Cards doesn't work. I think it's really far, shockingly far.
I don't know that it needed to go that far.
I don't either, but I also don't. But I don't see that, and I'm immediately like, well, they shouldn't have done that. I mean,
and it's a really sophisticated piece otherwise, and maybe even with that as well, and so it's not like it's just shock factor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, I know I go to this a lot, but it's not like a Spawn thing where it's just like it's cool and adult and edgy because it allows itself to go to these places. It's acknowledging that there are horrendous people who do bad things, and you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't know, something on my mind while I was reading Berserk. I was like, I think this might go too far for some people. Well, I know it would go too far for some people.
Sure. But then how much of that ends up just being a taste thing? And should we say that anything should ever be completely off the table in fiction, just because of your particular sensibilities? And like it's I know it's really easy to say, well, if you're too sensitive, if you have a weak stomach, that's not for you. Don't look at that. And then allow certain things to get popular that might influence the culture in negative ways. It's really difficult to say where the line should be drawn as far as and I've been getting this question a lot lately. It's not just the one guy. I have been getting this question quite a bit lately. And I got it specifically on the Q&A live show a couple weeks ago on Open Forum, where people keep wanting me to try to answer the question of how much of a responsibility, of a social responsibility, do we have in our fiction? That's a really tough thing to answer.
Yeah, it's really because we talked about that after you did that, and then we were talking about something that was an example of, well, this is a thing where maybe you do kind of have a social responsibility, but I don't remember what it was. It was something we were watching.
Well, the main thing is, or the main thing I brought up, and this is not the main thing. The main thing I brought up with social responsibility is if it's real violence in something for children have consequences.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
There are certain things that feel irresponsible in writing where I'm like, that can be a detriment to the culture. But I'm not. This is me. I'm not going to say that means those things shouldn't be allowed to exist. I just, when I'm thoughtfully criticizing it, I'm going to say that's a bad thing about it.
Well, and then you get into weird places where it's like,
I feel like there's a lot of right now, like, how dare you, that shouldn't exist, someone should make sure that can't be put out. I just think we should be socially conscious so that when those things happen, we can say, yeah, that didn't work, and move on.
Well, and then there's a weird thing where, like, in a void, I don't think you should have any of that. So, like,
because it's self-expression. And it's that balance of self-expression versus knowing you have an audience.
Well, and the question is, so let's say you make a TV show, you write a book, you do something like that, and it becomes very popular. Do you then have to alter what it is if you think like, well, I never expected this to go to a mainstream audience?
Sure. People are consuming this for whom it wasn't for in the first place.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about the popularity of Rick and Morty. I really like Rick and Morty. It really bothers me how popular it is because it's an incredibly nihilistic show. I've heard that maybe it possibly swings around that a little bit by the end of season 3. I haven't watched season 3 yet. But it's a show that's so cynical, and I feel like I don't know how to say this without sounding elitist, but like that kind of show should be for a very limited crowd that already is that way, and like I'm really bothered by the amount of kids that are watching Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
I mean,
because in this country, if it's a cartoon, it's okay for children.
Well,
and we still have that mentality too much.
I mean, I had this conversation with CJ where we were talking about this. I don't mean we entirely
have that. I think there are still parents who have that.
I was having a conversation with CJ about this where he was like, yeah, but here's a bunch of shows that you and I both watched when we were younger that totally were not okay for us and were very cynical and very dark. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know why it bothers me now. Well, some of it is, I watched those shows my mom didn't know. Parents are willingly buying their children Rick and Morty stuff, and they're not like flinching when they're like, oh man, Pickle Rick or whatever. There's something about that show where I'm like, I don't like that this is going to a mass audience. This should be an underground thing because it's so cynical.
But isn't that just this generation's like Beavis and Butthead or something?
Maybe, but the moral of Beavis and Butthead...
parents didn't like that.
But, yeah...
Also.
Yeah, but the moral of Beavis and Butthead isn't that everything is pointless.
Right.
Like, I like that. I love Lovecraft. Like, I like the idea cynically that everything doesn't matter, but...
What you're saying is it needs to be the exception. It needs to be the minority. So
yeah.
This goes back to my issue with how dark and oppressive a lot of... That's maybe not the right word, but a lot of I'll barrel on of our stories especially in film and television have to be right now. There's just not enough variety, which is weird because we have such a variety and diversity in other kinds of ways. Like so many different genres are being made now that we didn't have very many entries in before, and people keep talking about how we're in this renaissance of television. And I agree with that to some degree, but then there's not enough. There's not enough variety in like tone and flavor. I think just the idea that again to be taken seriously, for it to be realistic, believable, it must be relentless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
if Rick and Morty was the only thing.
Yeah, well, I even with the popular...
You wouldn't like that it was so popular, but may I suggest that maybe it wouldn't be that popular if there weren't so many other things that were inching toward that.
Yeah,
it's becoming so much of the norm.
I don't know how to deal with the popular... Because it's not like South Park, where South Park is a multi-layered show, where if you're just there for the fart jokes, you can be there for the fart jokes, and if you're there for the intricate social commentary, you're there for the intricate social commentary. The moral of every episode is... Everything is dumb, and you're stupid if you care about anything.
Yeah.
And I can think it's funny. I can. It bothers me that it's the most popular cartoon being made right now. And, like, but
you're worried about the influence.
Yeah. And I've always thought that, and that's the thing is, it's speaking to me. I'm worried about the fact that everyone else doesn't have my sensibilities, and it's really popular. So the question then becomes...
Yeah.
If they think that too, and I don't think they do, but if they think that too... Should they change the show? Do they have a moral obligation to try and make that show what it's not? And make it more uplifting? Is that their moral obligation? If they're also worried that it's negatively affecting society with how popular it is now, how widespread it is, are they morally obligated to then go, well, but maybe some things are worth loving? Maybe some human connections are worth having.
I would say no, because that's not what it is.
Yeah.
Then you're watering down your own material. You're not being true to it. Now, if your intention was, if either A, your intention was always to eventually get there, then there's your loophole.
Mm-hmm.
Or if B, it would naturally get there anyway, but then it's difficult to tell if you were influenced too much by the fandom or not. The other thing you could do is end it prematurely.
Yeah.
But it's hard to ask someone to do that.
How pretentious would they come off if they're like, we think our show is negatively impacting society, so we're going to stop making it?
Yeah. That would look like a stunt.
Nothing should ever be popular until it's done. Popularity ruined the Harry Potter books. It ruined so many things. Things should be allowed to come out complete. We should just give creative people money, and they should be able to make it in a vacuum. So the world cannot influence
We should all
it.
be Herman Melville. No one should care about us until we're dead. All right. Well, here's a morbid question.
I've got one of those too. That will probably be my last one if we have time.
Eric,
It will be my last one if we have time.
this should be a short one, though. Do you care at all, since you won't be there, what your funeral looks like?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Why?
Well, okay. Here's the thing. I have been saying something since I was a teenager, and like maybe it is time to reassess this. I hate funerals,
Oh.
and I don't want mine to be sad.
I thought you were going to say you just don't want to have one.
I don't want to have one. Look,
But remember that funerals are not for you, they're for the people that you leave
I
behind,
know.
which is why I have a hard time entirely caring what mine is.
I know, like it's supposed to be the time for mourning. Like I get that,
And celebration of life, and yeah.
but I don't want it to be. And I also like I don't want it to be lame. I don't want to ever feel like I would cringe at my own funeral.
Yeah.
There should be no songs anyone's ever heard of. There should be no clips of movies that anyone's ever heard of. There should be no, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I would hate my funeral because I feel like no matter what it is, no matter how heartfelt it is, I would feel like it's too what's the word? Sappy.
Yeah.
I don't want my funeral to be sappy, and honestly, I don't want people to be sad. Like, I would much rather just, like, a bunch of people, like, I don't know, like, hang out and, like, listen to, like, Weird Al or something. Like, I don't want to have a funeral. I also...
But you know you would.
I know
but then
I
at the
would.
same time, you would feel kind of weird about it if you didn't, if somehow you were around and you know what I mean? Where it's like... But you're supposed to have that.
Not if they knew that I didn't want one.
Oh, okay.
I also maybe getting really like self-reflexing might be the wrong word. I don't want to believe that my life can be summed up in a couple of speeches. I don't want to believe that I can be summed up in a couple of speeches and a couple of people can go up and say a couple of things and then everyone's like, yes, that's who Eric was.
You don't like the idea of that sense of finality. Because one of my issues with a funeral is once there's closure, I worry that people aren't thinking about me anymore.
Which has not been my experience. My grandfather died.
That would be my fear, though.
When my grandfather died, a year or two later, I had like a big revelation about my grandfather and how important he was to my life. And I didn't have that at the funeral.
Interesting.
It was a year or two later where I was like, oh shit, my grandfather was foundational. My grandfather introduced me to James Bond, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. Like, my grandfather was really important to my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't... It wasn't closure for me. I needed time away to have perspective. Before my grandfather died, no one ever tell my mother this, before my grandfather died, I had a conversation where I was like, yeah, but no one likes him, and like everyone, like no one ever wants to be around him. And now that he's dying, we're all gonna act like we're really sad and he was a great person. And I kind of had that in the funeral. And then as time passed, I kind of had more perspective. And I was like,
you developed an appreciation.
Yeah, I developed appreciation. My grandfather had a lot of flaws, but like he was really important to me, and there were all of these traits in him that I wasn't able to see at the time. And maybe a funeral upsets that. Maybe a funeral upsets the natural dealing with the passing of someone and a retrospective on their life. Maybe a funeral is too fast. I don't know.
Yeah, and part of the reason that we do it right away, of course, often is because we want to have the body there and we want to have an open casket, but a lot of the time we don't do that either, and it's got to be right away.
Also, I don't want to put anybody out for the cost of the funeral.
Yeah.
I'm also very pro cremation because we're just wasting space with with graveyards. Carl has a whole bit about that where he's like, why? This is so medieval. Why are we still doing this?
Yeah.
I'm very pro cremation, and I don't know. I would much rather a couple people that really knew me just scatter my ashes in the sea so I can't come back as a vampire than I don't know, a big thing.
Well, and I like the idea of both, where you have an open casket, but then it's a post cremation.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
Well, and I'm also split on like, on one hand, I'm very worried that I will die and no one will come to my funeral, or like there will be like 3 people at my funeral. But on the other hand, I'm someone that lives their life with a group of small, close-knit friends, as opposed to I know 1,000 people. And maybe I would want my funeral to be more personal. I would want it to be a smaller event. I wouldn't want everyone I've ever met there. I'd want the people that knew me.
You got folks that like you online. You could have it live streamed.
Has anyone ever done that?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody's ever live streamed a funeral.
Might be something to consider. I'll finally make a YouTube video that breaks 1 million views.
I think
This guy put a camera in the furnace as they incinerated his body.
I think, like weddings, it's impossible to expect somebody's funeral to not, for them if they were there, be awkward. And maybe it's nice that they're not there for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you would just have to expect that there would be something that was said that would make you cringe.
I feel like most of the speeches at my funeral would be like, everything I'm going to say would make Eric cringe, but he was a loving and caring person as much as he pretended he wasn't, or something like that. I don't know.
This is the thing that I think about sometimes. I have no idea what I would want mine to look like. And I don't know, I worked in a mortuary for 2 years. I got really acclimated to the notion that it's not for you, it's for everybody else that's left behind. I'm kind of in a place personally where I don't think I care.
Well, and I also have, like, two very, like I kind of radically, like, don't want a funeral, but then there's, like, a traditional side of me where I'm like, but that is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's try to knock a couple out real fast.
All right, do you want to do my dark and morbid final one?
Yeah, because it sounded like you had.
All right, I've got a dark and morbid final one.
Sure.
So, in the case of zombies or demon possession or one of a million things that we do in film, where either A loved one has been turned into a creature to which there is no saving them, or they're inhabited by something that they can briefly, like, break away and be like, kill me now while I still have control. Could you do it?
Okay, break that down again.
Okay, so in every zombie movie,
yeah,
we have the thing where someone gets bit, and they're going to be a zombie, or they're turned into a zombie, and everyone's like, oh, I can't do it, it's my mom, man, like, or, you know, whatever. Or you have the situation in film and television and comic books where, like, someone is possessed by, like, a demonic entity or something, and they're able to break free for, like, a moment and be like, look, I've got him under control, just kill me, and this is all done for. And they never do it. They're never strong enough. Could you do it?
Yeah, I feel like this is the cop-out answer, but this is the 2 people on an airplane that's about to crash with 1 parachute kind of question, right? You just wouldn't know until you were there.
I would like to believe I could. I would like to believe, at the very least, I'm genre savvy enough to be able to be like, this is not the person.
It's easy for me to immediately say, well, yes, I get, yeah. Like, I've seen enough of these things, I get that that's not really that person. It's easy for me to think that until I picture the person.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I picture them, I'm like, I don't know if it's Jason, I don't think I could.
Even if he's a zombie and he just ate Freddy?
Maybe in the heat of the moment.
Actually, let's be honest, that is flipped, right?
That is flipped, yeah. But in the heat of the moment, maybe?
I want to believe I can. I want to believe that I'm... Because whenever I watch those scenes...
Maybe it would partially be like, I can't stand to see them this way.
Yeah. I don't know, whenever I watch those scenes, my knee-jerk reaction was like, you're so fucking weak. Like, they're clearly not the person you love.
Right, but... different things handle it better than other things. I mean, we just had this issue with Jessica Jones with her mom, where we're going to review that soon. But you and I both kind of felt like
don't buy
while we were
anything that happens.
We just really weren't buying that relationship, and that Jessica Jones goes is as far as she does to help her homicidal mother, who is arguably maybe still her mom, maybe not. There's kind of there's a big question there. But there are other things that I've seen where, like, there is... We talked about this some when we did The Mist, where there were characters who kind of had that issue, where it was like, but don't you get it? But then they're already so far gone that you can see why they're not... Where they can't bring themselves to kill someone.
I don't believe I could do the ending of The Mist.
No, I don't think I could either.
But I'd like to think that if it was zombies or demonic possession or something like that, I'm strong enough that, like, if you got possessed by a demon and you were able to take control, like, Eric, it's the only way to kill me, you're dead.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate if that wasn't the only way, but you told me it was, and so I'm going with that. I'd like to believe that I could.
I worry that I would be foolish and screw up and look for some other way to deal with it. So you're making the assumption when you look at somebody on the big screen and you say, "You idiot, can't you tell that person's already totally too far gone," or "That's not actually, they're undead now, that's not actually your loved one." But it's not always, I think there's hope. It's, I just physically can't.
You understand that, but I'd like to think I could.
But you wouldn't know until you were there.
No, I wouldn't know it. But I'd like to think I could. I'd like to think that I could.
I just think it depends on who it is. Like, I think this is going to sound horrible, and this would obviously be really difficult for me and for probably anybody in this situation. I think it would be easier to do it with my wife than my children.
Interesting.
I think. I don't know why. It's much harder to imagine that with my kids.
Maybe just because they're kids.
I mean, it's hard to imagine that with my wife, too, certainly, but...
That will flip when they're teenagers, right?
And I guess it's tough. I don't know. I guess it's tough with my wife, too, because you're admitting that the future you had together is over.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the reason that I'm not sure how I would handle that situation is I tend to overthink things. And I think in the moment, I would be more likely to freeze up. Where it's not that it is that I couldn't do it, but it isn't like I've made the conscious decision not to. It's that I can't.
You're processing.
Choose. It's that it's that I'm indecisive.
Okay, well, you're dead.
So I'm dead. Yeah. No, I probably would be.
Also, if you do get bit by a zombie, and for some reason, like in every zombie movie,
I would not be a person you would want to be trying to help you in that situation. I think I would be too indecisive. I hate that about myself. I think I would be too indecisive in that situation.
If you're the damn fool in every zombie movie that gets like bit, and it's like it's in everything where they're like, "Well, it probably won't affect me. I just won't tell anyone about this. I don't care who you are. I will kill you. If you put the rest of us in jeopardy because you think you're special."
Why do you think you have any better of a chance at surviving this than anyone else? Though, why don't you think the virus is gonna turn you the same way it did everybody else?
Every goddamn zombie. Well, it just grazed me. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. They nipped at me. It wasn't even really a bite.
I'm struggling to remember which episode it is and what the situation is, but there's one of those everybody's being affected by in TNG, like everybody's being affected by some kind of a pathogen or an illness or something, and always the captain is the last person to succumb, or one of the last people to succumb. And Picard is speaking in a log or something, and he says, "It seems that I too am not immune." Why, just because you're the leader or the star of the show, would you think there was any chance that you were immune? Everybody else got it! I never got that line! I can't remember which episode it is now, but yeah.
I think I might have seen that one. That sounds familiar. I'm not sure.
It seems I, too, am not immune.
You're not Cisco!
Yeah! Why, you think Cisco, you'd understand that more? Like, just because he's the emissary?
Willpower from what I know of Cisco, just from, like, osmosis.
Yeah, Cisco does have sheer willpower. There is an episode we will eventually get to. We've got to figure out how we're going to get back and watch that show.
Power to be cancer, right?
There is an episode where he threatens genocide on a moon, and I still can't tell you if he was bluffing. I have no idea.
So do you have a final topic?
Still buy it more than anything Discovery. Eric, this will be a quick one. How long, when you're starting reading a book, do you give it before you quit if you're bored? And I'm not talking about like shitty prose. I just mean like you can imagine that it might get really interesting and it seems well written. You just it just isn't immediately grabbing you. How long do you give it?
Not long enough.
Yeah.
I quit books a lot.
I have a tendency to do that as well.
Quickly. Recently, it's a lot because I talked about this where like I was like, oh, I'm having this kind of phenomenon where the only time I really have to read books is on my breaks. I only read about 5 pages. And over the span of a week, I've read, 20, 30 pages, and I'm like, this book is going nowhere. Nothing's happened. I'm 30 pages in. This is ridiculous. And, like, that's not fair to them. I really shouldn't be reading like that.
Some of that is being spoiled by movie pacing.
That's true. That's true.
There's no way around it, right? You expect things to move at a faster clip because you watch more things than you read.
No, absolutely. And I read comics when I read books.
That hurts it too, and that has ruined our attention spans.
No, absolutely.
I am the biggest apologist for comics, but I think comics do ruin you to a degree, hear me out, with prose if it's all you read. Mm-hmm. I think after a while it can anyway it mess with your attention span a little bit because you're not used to doing as much of the word and reading prose with no visuals whatsoever is more of an active experience than reading comics, and reading comics is more of an active experience than watching something.
I also think there's a lot of books that are complete bullshit. Like, no matter how well written they are or how like amazing the story is, I've read a lot of books where I'm like, yeah, I didn't need that opening 50 pages. Well, that opening 50 pages could have been 10. Game of Thrones is a bullshit opening 20 pages.
Or it feels like we just didn't do it.
Gets away with it in the show because it's literally 3 minutes. Like, yeah, like, I mean, Game of Thrones introduces you to about 6 characters in the first page. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and remember all these characters. Yeah. And they all fucking die. It was bullshit. I hate the opening of Game of Thrones.
Wow.
No, bullshit. But I feel like that with a lot of books where and some of this comes from, I guess, a lot of my reading is the more like pulpy kind of a thing where I'm like, well, 10 pages in, every detective's got a case. Why can't your story move at that clip? Especially if you're trying to be a more action-y, not detective novels are action-y, but like, especially if you're trying to be something like, more like, I hate the words fast-paced with any book over 200 pages. Fucking impossible. It's especially if it's action-y, where like I'm 50 pages into this fantasy novel and nothing's fucking happened.
I can't think of a great example, but where I'll
fantasy's the worst.
Where I'll fight you on that a little bit is books that are like longer, 400 or 500 pages, but such page turners that you can't believe they were that long.
Sure. I don't know.
I don't think it's fair to say that there's a word count cap or a page count cap for fast-paced. I have a hard time with that. There are things where it's not exactly. I mean, maybe some of it is the prose, but it's just like I'm so engaged that I am in control of how fast I'm reading. You know what I mean? Like I'm so engaged that it's partly fast-paced for me because I'm blowing through it quicker. Where if someone was reading it to me, it wouldn't be the same experience.
I think that
because if I can't wait to see what I'm getting at is if I can't wait to see what happens, it feels more fast-paced.
I think that there is a completely awful thing that has happened to genre fiction, specifically science fiction and fantasy, where they've looked at literary books and they've taken none of the good lessons and they've just taken how to fucking pace, and so it's like, well, these characters aren't any more complex than they were in fucking Lensman, but boy, you took 700 pages to build this world. It's not actually any smarter.
Almost like that makes it more sophisticated or credible.
Yeah.
In precisely the same way is the issues we talked about in GNN last time with Netflix pacing with a lot of those shows.
A lot of genre books feel like Netflix TV shows in a bad way. And I think Netflix TV shows feel like a lot of genre books in a bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I give up on books too quickly, and I don't have...
Sometimes I wish I could get a sense of the flavor of it before I start. If there was any way to do
Yeah,
that. If there was
yeah.
a way where you could not be spoiled too much, but you could start on page 100, read 10 pages, and go, okay, I know what I'm in for. And so when I have this, and like maybe this is why some things like to try to open with this is what's happening later on in the future, and then and then later get to that, so they think that they're giving you that, and I always complain about that, and I don't like it. But at the same time, but I think more often it's kind of just a cheat, and so I don't like that. But I do wish there was some way where I could have a sense of what I was getting myself into.
I also hate any book that opens. Not any. I hate most books.
And a good opener will give you that.
I hate most books that open with a not important character that will probably die. That's like doing something that deals with the plot. Movies can do that because it's 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
It's not 30 minutes of my time.
And movies need and books need to know that they're books.
Yeah, no, I hate the I'm gonna open with someone that I'm gonna give you an entire goddamn backstory of.
Yeah.
And then they're just gonna be killed by the villain. That's gonna let you know that the villain's polluting the water hole or whatever.
The rats are polluting the lake.
There's the first Ed McBain 87th Precinct book does that really well. It's like 5 pages, and you get a really good sense of who this police officer is, and then he dies because the entire book's about investigating the murders of police officers because of somebody killing cops.
Yeah.
Does it really well. It's like 5 pages. I've read way too many books where I'm like, I thought this book was about a different character. Oh, they're dead.
Well, sometimes you can do that in like a whodunit because it's about you know.
But yeah, I don't like how often I or how quickly I give on books. But part of that I think is sometimes is poor pacing and poor early pacing versus maybe like the middle and the like. It takes you a while to get to it. But once you get to it, you can do it.
Or it takes you a while to get acclimated to the pacing where you're like, oh, it had to be done this way because this is the kind of thing it is.
But it's also, I don't have enough time to just sit down and read books. Part of that is doing the YouTube show and stuff and comics and. I was like that before, anyways. But there's so many comics I want to read and all of that.
We have a show for books on this channel. But let's face it, no one watches it.
But I switch gears. I get on kicks so quickly, and I don't have enough time to read books fast enough. So I'm really into giant robots right now. I could start reading this giant robot book, or I could go read these 2 comics, and then by the time I'm done with those 2 comics, I'm in a fantasy mood. I have that, and I don't know if that's a short attention span as much as just I just jump around what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And I'll get bored, not into a book's fault, but I was really in a space opera mood when I started this book, but now I'm looking at spy stuff, and this isn't a spy book, and so I'll pick this back up when I'm in space opera mood again.
Well, that's why I like a lot of people that have a tendency to read kind of 5 books at the same time.
Yep.
And I constantly never finish any of them.
Nope. Makes me feel dumb. And that's what I like about audiobooks is I can at least... I've
been doing a lot more reading lately.
Every time I step out and smoke, I can listen to a bit of it and that kind of a thing. I finish audiobooks. Not always. I'll drop audiobooks too. I'll get 40 minutes into a thing fuck this. It's going nowhere. This narrator sucks or whatever. But, yeah.
Well, anyway, folks, thanks a lot for listening and watching. We sure appreciate it, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. Once again, Eric and I, here in the not-too-distant future, are going to start doing monthly video game casts on this on Patreon, so look forward to that. And I've got lots of stuff in... brewing right now. I just put. By the time you've seen this, I will have a new Superhero Rewind up, and I'm working on another one right now as we speak. Not right now, because otherwise I would have been rude writing while you were talking, so that was not going on. But gonna be doing. Gonna be really prioritizing that show again finally for the first time in a long time, and gonna be getting that out as often as humanly possible, so look forward to that. There's some things that have changed on Patreon, so take a look at that. We've changed, we've added goals, we've changed goals. There's a new tier. If you really want to get to pick the next Superhero Rewind, you can do that at the highest tier now, which is a $50 tier, which I realize is not cheap, but if I make it any lower than that, people are going to be getting to pick it for me all the time. So that's a little bit higher. But anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And we'll see you next time.